He thought he was clever, but no one deceives the king and walks away free. He lied to the king and faced the consequences. A tale of betrayal, greed, and punishment. Please sit back and enjoy this story till the end. Also like and share your thoughts in the comments.
In a quiet African kingdom surrounded by thick forests and fertile farmlands, the people lived in peace under their wise king, Oba Adeyemi. The king was known to be fair, but he had one weakness that he never revealed to his people: his unstoppable love for food. Every evening, after the people had gone home, the king's private cook prepared a special meal meant only for the king's table. Nobody in the palace, not even the queen, knew the true ingredients of this meal because the king believed it gave him strength, wisdom, and long life. To protect his secret, he made sure only one trusted servant delivered the food. The meal was always covered in a golden pot that was carried straight into the king's chambers. Nobody dared to open it, for the punishment for tampering with the king's food was death. This rule made the golden pot one of the greatest mysteries in the land, and only the king himself knew what was inside. But in that same kingdom lived the clever tortoise, Ijapa. Unlike the other animals, who were content with what they had, Ijapa's heart was full of greed. He wanted the best of everything: the best farm, the best food, the best house, yet he never wanted to work for it. While other animals sweated under the sun, planting and harvesting, Ijapa was busy looking for shortcuts to riches. And when he heard whispers about the golden pot that contained the king's secret meal, his greedy heart began to burn with curiosity. What could be inside that pot? He asked himself one evening as he watched from a distance while the palace guards escorted the cook. If it makes the king wise and strong, then surely, if I get a taste, I too will become great. Why should Oba Adeyemi alone enjoy such a treasure? From that moment, Ijapa's mind refused to rest. He began to plot how he could trick his way into discovering and tasting the king's secret food. One night, as the moonlight spread across the village square, Ijapa gathered his fellow animals, goat, dog, and monkey, around the fire. He spoke with a soft, convincing tone. "My friends," he began, "have you ever wondered why the king is so powerful and respected? Do you think it is only because of his crown? No. There is something more. I have discovered that he eats a secret meal that gives him wisdom and authority. But look at us, we work hard, yet we remain poor and ordinary. Is it fair? Should we not also share in what belongs to the land?" Monkey scratched his head suspiciously, while Dog wagged his tail in confusion. Goat, however, was quick to respond, "Ijapa, are you saying we should steal from the king? Do you know the punishment for such a thing?" But Ijapa, with his sly smile, leaned forward and whispered, "Who said anything about stealing? All I ask is that we find a way to know the truth. If the food is so powerful, then maybe it should not belong to one man alone." Though the animals were not fully convinced, Ijapa's words planted small seeds of curiosity in their hearts. The following day, Ijapa put his plan into action. Disguised in rags and limping like a beggar, he positioned himself near the palace gates just before evening. When the cook came out with the golden pot, Ijapa dragged himself forward and cried, "Help me, please. I am a poor beggar with no family. Just a taste of water from your hands will save me." The cook, though in a hurry, was moved by pity and bent to give him water. That was when Ijapa noticed something important: the cook's left hand never left the golden pot's handle. Even while pouring water with his right, his left hand clutched the pot as if his life depended on it. So, Ijapa thought, this is not an ordinary food. It must truly be powerful. His suspicion was now stronger than ever, and he knew he had to find a way to touch the pot. That night, when the cook delivered the golden pot to the king, Ijapa followed silently, hiding in the shadows. He crept behind pillars and crouched under benches until he reached the king's private chambers. His heart pounded loudly in his chest as he watched the guards outside and the king inside lifting the cover of the pot. The smell that escaped from the pot was unlike anything Ijapa had ever known: sweet, spicy, and irresistible. It made his mouth water instantly. But before he could move closer, the king's voice echoed in the chamber, "This food must never be shared. Whoever tampers with it will carry a curse heavier than death." Ejapa froze in fear. A curse? He hadn't expected that. For the first time, doubt entered his greedy heart. But then, as he slipped away into the night, a wicked thought whispered in his mind, what if the king only says that to scare people away? What if there is no curse at all? What if he is lying to keep the treasure to himself? And with that thought, Ejapa's greed grew even stronger. The next morning, Ejapa the tortoise could not sleep. He kept rolling from one side of his mat to the other, his greedy mind restless. The memory of the king's golden pot and the powerful aroma of the secret food had taken full control of him. He remembered clearly how the king warned of a curse, but Ejapa refused to believe it. A curse? He scoffed to himself. That is only the king's way of keeping others away from his treasure. There is no curse, only wisdom and power hidden in that pot. If I can taste it even once, my life will change forever. From that moment, Ejapa vowed he would do whatever it took to get to the pot. He sat outside under a mango tree, rubbing his rough chin and thinking of a plan. Suddenly, a mischievous smile spread across his face. If I cannot touch the pot with my hands, he thought, then I will use my brain. And nobody in this kingdom has a brain sharper than mine. Later that day, Ejapa disguised himself as a traveling herbalist. He wrapped leaves around his body, painted strange marks on his face, and carried a wooden staff. With this new look, he marched straight to the palace gates and called out, "Great guards of the king! I am a wise herbalist from the faraway mountains. I have traveled here because I had a dream about our mighty king. The gods showed me a vision, if the king does not eat from a blessed pot, his wisdom will fade and enemies will defeat him. The gods instructed me to bless his food and protect him from harm." The guards looked at one another nervously. They had never heard such a message before, but they dared not ignore a man who claimed to speak for the gods. One of them quickly ran to inform the chief cook. When the cook arrived and heard the herbalist's strange prophecy, he frowned. "Who told you about the king's food?" he asked sternly. Ejapa, pretending to be insulted, tapped his chest and said, "The gods speak to me in dreams. If you refuse me, you are refusing them. Do you want to be responsible if harm comes to the king?" The cook, though suspicious, did not want to take the risk. After all, the king himself might be angry if he found out they ignored a divine message. And so, to Ejapa's delight, he was led into the palace. His heart raced with excitement as he stepped into the very place he had spied upon the night before. The golden pot stood on a table, glowing under the lamplight. The sweet aroma filled the air, almost knocking him off his feet with hunger. He wanted to run and dip his hands into it immediately, but he controlled himself. Instead, he raised his staff and began to chant meaningless words, "O spirits of the land, O spirits of the sky, bless this food, bless this man, give him power, give him life." The guards and cook bowed their heads in respect, believing the herbalist was performing a sacred ritual. But while he pretended to sprinkle leaves over the pot, Ejapa quickly dipped one of his claws into the food and licked it. Instantly, his body shook as a strange warmth spread through him. His eyes widened, and a foolish grin spread across his face. "Ah!" he thought, "so the king has been hiding this sweetness all along." But he did not realize that the very moment he tasted the food, something invisible marked him. Something that no eye in that room could see, but which would soon reveal itself. When he finished his act, Ejapa bowed and told the guards, "It is done. The king is safe now." They thanked him and escorted him out of the palace. As soon as he reached the forest, Ejapa broke into laughter. "Fools! They believed my lies. Now I know the secret of the king's power. That food is unlike anything I have ever tasted. If I eat more of it, I will surely become greater than the king himself." But as the night grew darker, Ejapa began to feel a strange heaviness in his body. His shell itched, his throat grew dry, and he heard whispers in his ears. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then the whispers became clearer. The food is not yours. The curse has begun. Terrified, Ijapa shook his head and slapped his ears, but the voices would not go away. Nonsense. He told himself, it is only fear. Nothing will happen to me. Tomorrow, I will go back and eat again. Yet, deep in his heart, he felt a small shadow of dread. The following day, the king summoned his cook and asked, "Did anyone touch my food yesterday?" The cook quickly explained about the herbalist's visit and how he performed a blessing. The king's face darkened immediately. What herbalist? I sent no one. The gods did not send anyone. Someone has lied his way into my palace. And whoever tasted that food has opened the door to his own destruction. The cook trembled and begged for forgiveness, but the king only sighed. The curse will expose him. It is only a matter of time. Meanwhile, Ijapa sat in his hut, licking his lips as he remembered the sweetness of the golden pot. He did not care about curses or warnings. His greed was stronger than his fear. He was already planning his next trick. Blind to the storm that was about to fall on him, Ijapa woke up the next morning with a strange headache. His body felt heavy, and his shell seemed tighter than usual. As he staggered out of his hut, he noticed something odd. Every animal he greeted avoided his eyes. Monkey scratched his head nervously and hurried away. Goat, who usually stopped to chat with him, walked quickly in the opposite direction. Even Dog, who never minded Ijapa's tricks, growled softly and kept his distance. What is wrong with everyone today? Ijapa muttered to himself. He went to the river to wash his face, but when he looked into the water, his reflection shocked him. His eyes had turned red, and faint black marks had begun to spread around his mouth. For a moment, fear gripped him. He remembered the king's words about the curse. But immediately, he shook the thought away. No, he said firmly, it is only the result of hunger. Once I eat more of that food, my body will heal, and my strength will grow. But as he bent to scoop water, he heard the same whispering voices from the night before. Greed will destroy you. Greed will expose you. The tortoise jumped back, looking around, but no one was there. The only sound was the flowing river. He spat into the water angrily. I will not be frightened by shadows and voices. The king cannot scare me. Later that evening, Ijapa's stomach growled fiercely. He could not forget the taste of the king's food. He began to pace around his hut, thinking of another plan to get into the palace. I cannot return as the herbalist, he reasoned. They may grow suspicious. I need another disguise, something clever. Then, an idea flashed in his mind. Yes. I will pretend to be a messenger from a faraway land, carrying a warning for the king. They will surely let me into the palace again. He gathered an old piece of cloth, wrapped it like a cloak, and carried a carved wooden stick as a staff of authority. He even tied feathers to his head to look more mysterious. When night fell, he walked boldly to the palace gates and declared in a deep, dramatic voice, I am a messenger from the east. The spirits of the mountain sent me with a warning for the king. Let me in at once. The guards, though suspicious, did not want to be held responsible if it turned out to be true. They let him inside. Once again, Ijapa found himself staring at the golden pot. The sweet aroma drove him wild with hunger. As the cook bowed and left to call the king, Ijapa quickly dipped his claw into the pot and licked. The same sweetness filled his body, but this time, the warmth turned into burning heat. His throat tightened, and the whispers grew louder, you were warned. The curse has begun. When the king entered, he noticed the pot had shifted slightly from where it had been placed. His sharp eyes scanned the room, and he immediately suspected the so-called messenger. Who are you? The king demanded. Ijapa, trembling, tried to deepen his voice further. I am from the east, great king. The spirits, but before he could finish, he sneezed violently, and the feathers on his head fell off. The guards gasped. The king rose from his throne, his eyes blazing with anger. This is no messenger. This is Ajapa the trickster. The tortoise fell to his knees, shaking. Mercy, my king! He cried. I only wanted to taste the food that makes you wise. I meant no harm. The king's voice thundered across the hall, you have lied, you have tricked, and you have tasted what was forbidden. Now the curse will do its work. From this day, your greed will make you restless, and your lies will choke you. Wherever you go, your shame will follow. Ajapa begged and begged, but the king turned his face away. Throw him out, he commanded. The guards dragged the tortoise out and cast him into the dark forest. That night, as Ajapa lay under a tree, the voices tormented him endlessly. He tried to cover his ears with his rough claws, but it was useless. He could hear them clearly, greed lies punishment. He twisted and turned, unable to sleep. Hunger gnawed at his belly, but fear gnawed even deeper into his heart. For the first time, Ajapa began to regret his actions. Maybe the king was right. Maybe I should have left the pot alone. But the memory of the sweetness in his mouth still haunted him, calling him back. He clenched his jaws and whispered, no curse can defeat me. I will find a way to eat again. I must. His eyes burned with determination, not realizing that every step he took deeper into greed was also a step deeper into destruction. Days passed, and Ajapa grew weaker. His once shiny shell began to dull, and the black marks around his mouth spread to his neck. He avoided the market square because whenever he passed by, people whispered and pointed. Something is wrong with that tortoise, they would say. He looks cursed. At first, Ajapa tried to ignore them, but soon even his closest companions began to distance themselves. Monkey refused to share fruits with him. Goat stopped visiting his hut. Dog, who once wagged his tail whenever he saw him, now barked furiously if Ajapa came near. Loneliness pressed heavily on his greedy heart, yet instead of repenting, Ajapa clung to the memory of the king's golden pot. If I eat more of that food, he told himself, I will become stronger again. The curse cannot win. The only way to fight weakness is to taste the secret again. His body trembled with hunger and obsession. He cared no longer for friends or shame. All he wanted was another chance to taste the king's forbidden food. One evening, Ajapa went to the forest in search of his old friend, Parrot. Parrot was known throughout the kingdom as the best messenger because he could fly quickly and repeat words exactly as he heard them. Ajapa begged, my friend, you must help me. The king is keeping a treasure in the palace that belongs to everyone, not just him. If you fly into his chambers and watch carefully, you will learn the secret of his food. Then you can bring the information back to me, and we will share it together. But Parrot shook his head firmly. No, Ajapa. I have heard of your troubles. Everyone says you are cursed for touching what the king forbade. If I join you, will the curse not fall on me too? Ajapa's eyes filled with fake tears as he pleaded, Parrot, I am your friend. Would you leave me to suffer alone? I only want to understand the truth. Perhaps the curse is a lie told to frighten us. If you help me, I will make you rich beyond measure when I discover the secret. Parrot hesitated, torn between fear and pity. At last, he agreed reluctantly, though deep inside his feathers prickled with unease. The next day, Parrot flew into the palace, perching high above the king's chambers. From his hidden spot, he watched as the cook brought in the golden pot. He saw the king lift the lid and eat with great satisfaction. But what caught Parrot's attention was something far stranger. Each time the king took a spoonful, he whispered a prayer in an ancient language. Suddenly, Parrot's head grew dizzy. His wings felt heavy, and he almost fell from the ceiling. He realized quickly that even watching too closely was dangerous. Frightened, he flew back to Ajapa and reported everything. The king does not just eat, he prays over the food. Something powerful is inside. I nearly fell from the air just by watching. Ijapa, listen to me, leave this matter alone before you destroy yourself. But instead of listening, Ijapa clapped his hands in excitement. So, it is true. The food holds great power. I must have it again. Thank you, Parrot, you have helped me more than you know. Parrot shook his head in despair. You are blind, Ijapa. The more you chase this food, the deeper you sink into ruin. I want no part in this anymore. With that, Parrot flew away, leaving the greedy tortoise alone. That night, Ijapa's suffering worsened. The whispers in his ears became louder, like drums beating inside his head. His stomach burned, and his shell cracked slightly at the edges. He rolled on the ground, groaning in pain. But amidst his torment, a dangerous idea formed in his mind. If I cannot trick my way into the palace again, he thought, then I must go directly to the king. I will beg him to share the food with me. If he refuses, then I will expose his secret to the people. Let him see how it feels to be shamed. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of desperation and wickedness. Yes, I will force the king's hand. The food cannot remain his alone. It must be mine. By morning, word had already begun to spread in the kingdom that Ijapa was plotting something terrible. The people whispered, the tortoise has gone mad. He wants to challenge the king. Some shook their heads in pity, others in fear. Meanwhile, the king himself had been warned by his diviners. They told him, beware, O king. The tortoise will return. His greed will drive him back to your palace. But do not fear, his downfall is near. The king nodded gravely. Then let the curse complete its work. Let all the kingdom learn what happens when greed blinds the heart. The sun was high in the sky when Ijapa dragged his weary shell toward the palace gates. His body was weak, his eyes swollen from sleepless nights, and his shell still marked with strange black streaks from the curse. Yet he walked with the pride of a warrior, his chest puffed out as though he owned the world. The guards were shocked to see him again. Tortoise. One of them barked. How dare you show your face here after deceiving the king? But Ijapa raised his cracked claws in the air and shouted, I come not in disguise today. I come as myself. Take me to the king at once. I have words that the whole kingdom must hear. The guards hesitated, for they knew he had once fooled them and nearly dishonored the king. But the tortoise's loud cries had already attracted a crowd at the gates. Villagers, curious about the commotion, gathered quickly. Let him speak before the king, they demanded. If he is guilty, let us hear it with our own ears. The guards, afraid of causing more trouble, dragged Ijapa inside and presented him before Oba Adeyemi. The king sat on his throne, his eyes burning like fire. The golden pot, still untouched, rested on a small table by his side. So, Ijapa, the king said slowly, you dare return after all your lies and tricks. Have you come to beg for forgiveness? Ijapa's cracked lips twisted into a smile. Forgiveness? He asked mockingly. No, my king. I have come for fairness. Why should one man alone enjoy the food of wisdom while the whole kingdom suffers in ignorance? Why should Oba Adeyemi alone grow strong while his people remain weak? That food belongs to all of us, not just you. The crowd gasped in shock. Never before had anyone spoken to the king in such a manner. Some shouted angrily. How dare you challenge the king? While others murmured nervously, perhaps the tortoise is right. Why should only the king eat the secret food? For a moment, confusion spread like wildfire among the people. The king raised his staff and silenced the noise. His voice echoed through the hall, the food you speak of is not ordinary. It is sacred. It was given to me by the gods themselves, with a warning that no one else must taste it. You, tortoise, have broken that law, and now the curse consumes you. Ijapa, trembling yet stubborn, pointed at his cursed body and said, "If it truly belongs to the gods, why should they favor only you? Why should one man eat while the rest of us watch? If there is wisdom inside that pot, then share it with us all." The crowd began to murmur louder, some nodding in agreement. The king's face grew stern, but before he could speak, one of his elders stepped forward. "My king," the elder said carefully, "perhaps the tortoise raises a question worth answering. Should we not at least explain why the food cannot be shared?" And his eyes rolled upward. The crowd screamed as the black marks on his skin spread rapidly, covering his shell like wildfire. His claws twisted, his voice turned into a painful croak, and he fell to the ground, writhing in agony. The king raised his hand and spoke calmly, "The gods do not lie. The food was never meant for greedy hearts. Let this be a lesson to all who defy their warning." The people trembled in fear, watching Ajapa's body shake as the curse tightened its grip. The palace fell into chaos as Ajapa rolled on the ground, clutching his stomach and screaming. His shell rattled against the marble floor, and his claws scratched deep marks on the tiles. The black streaks crawling across his body looked like fire burning under his skin. The people who had once whispered that the king might be selfish now fell silent in terror. Mothers pulled their children closer, traitors covered their faces, and even the bravest hunters stepped back. "The curse is real," they murmured. "The gods have punished him." Some even began to cry, fearing that they too would suffer for merely listening to Ajapa's challenge. Oba Adeyemi raised his hand again, and the hall grew still. His voice was calm but firm. "Let all of you see the danger of greed. The tortoise believed he was wiser than the gods. He believed lies could open the door to blessings. But look at him now, his lies have opened the door to destruction." His words cut through the fear like a blade. Slowly, the people dropped to their knees and began to chant, "Long live the king! Long live the king!" But Ajapa was not finished yet. Even as the curse twisted his body, his greedy heart refused to surrender. Through his painful groans, he croaked, "No, no, I will not die like this. The food is mine. The power is mine." His voice was cracked, but his eyes burned with defiance. The king shook his head sadly. "Even in pain, your greed blinds you. That is why your punishment will not end quickly. You will live, Ajapa, but your life will be full of shame. Everywhere you go, the people will remember this day. You will carry your curse as a warning to others." The crowd gasped, realizing that the king had chosen not to end the tortoise's life immediately. Instead, he was condemning him to live as a walking example of punishment. The guards dragged Ajapa outside and threw him into the dust. As he crawled away, groaning, the whispers in his ears grew louder, chanting the same words over and over, "Greed will destroy you, greed will destroy you." In the days that followed, the story of Ajapa spread across the kingdom like wildfire. Everywhere he went, children pointed and laughed at his cracked shell. Women spat on the ground when they saw him, muttering, "That is the liar who tried to deceive the king." Hunters mocked him, "Where is your wisdom now, trickster? Can it heal your curse?" The once proud tortoise now lived in constant humiliation. Yet deep inside, he still clung to his obsession. There must be a way. He muttered to himself one night as he lay under a tree. The king cannot be the only one chosen. Perhaps if I find the right ritual, I can break the curse and claim the food again. His greed, though battered, refused to die. The curse tormented him, but it had not broken his stubbornness. Meanwhile, the people's trust in the king grew stronger. No longer did they question why only Oba Adeyemi could eat from the golden pot. They had seen with their own eyes the price of disobedience. The elders gathered in the palace and declared, "Let this be a law, never again shall anyone question the king's secret food. Whoever tries shall face death." The king nodded but spoke with sorrow. "It is not my wish that my people live in fear. But the gods have shown us that their gift must not be tampered with. Let Ajapa's fate be enough warning. Still, in the back of the king's mind, a shadow of worry remained. He knew the tortoise well. Ajapa was cunning, and even the strongest curse might not kill his greed. He will try again, the king told his chief advisor quietly. And when he does, the gods themselves must finish what has been started. And indeed, the king's fears were true. For even as his body burned with the marks of the curse, Ajapa plotted in silence. He avoided the market where the people mocked him and instead wandered deep into the forest, searching for anyone desperate enough to join him. "The king is selfish," he whispered to a group of wild animals one evening. "He hides power from us all. Why should one man rule while we suffer? If you help me, I will find a way to claim the food, and together we will rise above him." Some animals, frightened by his appearance, ran away. But a few, the desperate, the hungry, the bitter, listened carefully. Slowly, Ajapa began to gather followers, planting seeds of rebellion in their hearts. He told them, "The curse is nothing but a test. If we all share the food together, the power will be divided, and none of us will suffer." They nodded nervously, tempted by his words. What they did not know was that the curse, which had already consumed Ajapa, would soon spread to anyone foolish enough to believe him. The tortoise sat quietly in his hut after the king's meeting, his shell resting against the mud wall. His heart pounded heavily in his chest. Though he had received gifts and respect from the king, he knew that his lie about the treasure was slowly weaving a dangerous web around him. Every villager who saw him now greeted him with respect. Some even bowed. Children whispered his name as though he were a legend. Deep inside, the tortoise enjoyed the attention, but the fear of being found out kept gnawing at him like a rat nibbling a rope. For days, he avoided the palace, pretending to be busy in his farm. But he could not escape the watchful eyes of the king's guards who passed messages to him daily. "The king wants to know when you will return to the forest," they said. The tortoise would only nod, forcing a smile, and respond, "Very soon. I must wait for the right time. The spirits of the forest will guide me." But the truth was, he had no treasure to find, no forest spirits to guide him. His first lie had been enough to put him in the king's good books, but the king's expectations were becoming heavier, like a sack of yams strapped to his back. The tortoise's wife, sensing his restlessness, often asked him, "My husband, what troubles you? Why do you walk around like a man whose shadow is chasing him?" He would wave her off. "Woman, you will not understand. Just keep quiet. Things will soon become better." But his wife was not convinced. She noticed that he barely ate, and his laughter, once loud and mischievous, had become shallow and forced. One evening, the king himself summoned him to the palace. The tortoise had no excuse left to give, so he went. The great hall was full. The chiefs, elders, and even strangers from neighboring villages had gathered. They had heard of the tortoise's discovery and came to witness what new wonder he would bring. The king welcomed him warmly. "My friend, the tortoise, the wise one," the king said with a broad smile. "We are grateful for the treasure you showed us last time. But I believe the forest holds more secrets. Tell us, when will you bring us the next gift?" The tortoise's throat went dry. He forced a chuckle. "My king, you know the forest spirits do not reveal their riches in haste. They test the patience of those who seek their blessings. But I assure you, very soon, another gift will come." The crowd murmured with excitement. The king nodded, satisfied for the moment. But then, to the tortoise's shock, the king added, "Good. In that case, I shall send 2 of my strongest warriors with you to the forest. They will protect you and witness the spirit's blessing with their own eyes." The tortoise's heart almost leapt out of his chest. Warriors? Witnesses? If he took them into the forest, they would surely discover that he had lied. But he could not say no to the king without raising suspicion. Sweat trickled down his face as he bowed and forced a smile. "As you wish, my king. The forest spirits will guide us all." That night, the tortoise could not sleep. He tossed and turned, staring at the thatched roof of his hut. "What have I gotten myself into?" he muttered. His wife, who had been watching him silently, finally said, "My husband, be careful. Lies are like smoke. No matter how much you try to hide them, they will always rise and show themselves." The tortoise waved her words away, but deep down, he knew she was right. The next morning, the king's warriors arrived at his hut, ready to escort him to the forest. Villagers followed behind, eager to witness another miracle. As they entered the thick forest, the tortoise felt his legs trembling. Every step he took sank him deeper into the trap he had set for himself. The warriors walked tall and proud, their eyes sharp and watchful. "Wise tortoise," one of them said. "Show us the place where the spirits revealed the treasure." The tortoise nodded nervously, pretending to recognize the path. He led them to a clearing where the ground was bare. He bent down, digging at the soil with his claws, pretending to search. Minutes passed. Sweat drenched his shell. The warriors exchanged suspicious glances. The villagers behind him began to whisper. Just then, the tortoise spotted something unusual, a pile of shiny stones buried under a fallen tree. His heart leapt. He quickly grabbed one, raised it high, and shouted, "Behold! The spirits have spoken again." The villagers gasped in awe. The warriors looked at each other, unsure. To them, the stones looked ordinary, but the tortoise's confidence convinced the crowd. The villagers carried the stones back to the palace with excitement, praising the tortoise. The king, thrilled once again, rewarded him with more gifts. But as the tortoise sat in the palace that evening, listening to songs of praise sung in his name, he could not shake off the uneasy feeling in his chest. He knew the stones were worthless. He knew his lie was only growing bigger. And he knew that one day soon, the truth would break free, like a bird escaping from a cage. The tortoise forced a smile, but deep inside, he whispered to himself, "I must find a way out before it is too late." But unknown to him, his enemies in the palace, the jealous chiefs who already doubted his stories, were secretly planning to expose him. And when the truth finally came out, the tortoise would learn the painful cost of greed and lies. The palace was quieter than ever before. The tortoise's lies had shaken the whole kingdom, and the king could no longer trust anyone blindly. Every courtier, every guard, and even the villagers who once loved the tortoise began to whisper doubts. Some believed him, while others swore he was a trickster. The king sat on his throne that evening, his crown tilted slightly forward as if weighed down by worry. He summoned his council of elders. "This tortoise," the king began slowly, "his tongue is sweeter than honey, but I smell poison in his words. Yet if I punish him without proof, my people may accuse me of injustice. What then shall we do?" The oldest elder, a man with a white beard that touched his chest, cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, in the days of our fathers, when a liar rose among the people, they would set a trap not with ropes but with wisdom. Let the tortoise's own mouth reveal the truth." The king's eyes gleamed. "So be it. We shall test him. But no one must suspect a thing." He dismissed the elders and called for his most trusted guard, a quiet man named Okoro. "You will act as though you have discovered a great treasure in the forest," the king whispered. "Tell the tortoise that it is so valuable I wish no one to know about it. Watch his reaction carefully, for greed has a way of betraying itself." The guard bowed and left. The king leaned back on his throne, breathing deeply. "Tortoise, you may have fooled my people, but this time, your own lies will tie you like a rope around your neck." The next morning, Okoro accidentally let slip in the marketplace that he had stumbled upon something strange and precious deep in the forest. His words were crafted carefully, and though he spoke softly, he made sure the tortoise was close enough to hear. The tortoise's ears twitched. His little eyes darted from side to side. He waddled closer and asked, pretending to be uninterested, "Ah, Okoro, you speak of the forest as though it hides wonders. Tell me, what did you see there?" A bird? A stream? Surely, nothing too important. Okoro chuckled. Oh, it is nothing for you to worry about, old friend. Just a secret of the king's. I am sworn to silence. He turned as if to walk away. But the tortoise's heart burned with curiosity. Asterisk a secret. A treasure. Why should the king know of it and not me? Asterisk he rushed forward and grabbed Okoro's arm. Brother, surely you can trust me. We are close, are we not? I can keep secrets better than anyone. Tell me, and I shall guard it with my very life. Okoro shook his head. I fear your tongue is too loose, tortoise. I dare not risk it. The tortoise puffed up his chest. Loose tongue. Me? Ha! I am the most trustworthy creature in this kingdom. Tell me, and if I ever reveal it, may the gods themselves strike me down. Okoro pretended to hesitate, then leaned closer. Very well. But you must not tell anyone. Deep in the forest, buried beneath an old irako tree, lies a chest of gold. It belongs to the king. He intends to use it for something very important. Not a word, do you hear me? The tortoise's eyes widened, and his mouth watered. Gold? A hidden chest? His mind raced with plans. He nodded quickly, too quickly. Not a word. You have my promise. But of course, promises meant nothing to the tortoise. That night, the tortoise could not sleep. He tossed and turned, whispering to himself. Asterisk if the king hides such treasure, why should he alone enjoy it? Am I not clever enough to deserve a share? Asterisk his greed gnawed at him until he could no longer resist. Before dawn, he crept into the forest with a small shovel tied to his shell. He found the old irako tree, just as Okoro had described. He dug furiously, sweat pouring down his brow. At last, his shovel hit something hard. He gasped with excitement as he uncovered a large wooden chest. But when he forced it open, his smile froze. The chest was empty. Completely empty. Before he could recover from the shock, torches flared around him. Out of the darkness stepped the king, the elders, and the guards. They had been hiding, waiting. The king's voice boomed across the forest. Tortoise! Did I not treat you as a trusted subject? Did I not give you a place of honor in my court? Yet here you are, digging like a thief in the night, seeking to steal what does not belong to you. The tortoise's legs trembled. He stammered, I was only testing the ground, my king. I was making sure no danger lay beneath the tree. The crowd laughed bitterly. The king's eyes burned with fury. Enough. Your lies have spread like disease in this land, but tonight, you are caught by your own greed. You have proven to all what you truly are. The tortoise fell to his knees, begging. Mercy, my king. Mercy. I was blinded by hunger, not wickedness. But the king raised his hand. Your punishment shall be decided at sunrise. Until then, you shall remain under guard. As the soldiers dragged him away, the tortoise realized too late that his clever tongue had finally betrayed him. The whole kingdom now saw him for what he truly was, a greedy liar. The palace courtyard was tense the following morning. The king sat on his golden stool, his face unreadable, but everyone could sense that the day's gathering would not end quietly. The chiefs, drummers, and elders were present. Even the children of the village gathered around the edges of the courtyard to witness what they sensed would be a day of judgment. At the center of the gathering stood Tortoise, dressed in his fine robe, a confident smile dancing across his lips. He strutted like a peacock, nodding at the villagers who whispered among themselves. To him, this was just another performance. He had always relied on his sharp tongue to wriggle out of trouble, and today would be no different. The king raised his staff of authority and spoke, "Today we will decide the truth about the strange events that have brought trouble to this kingdom. Tortoise has been accused of lying, deceiving, and sowing confusion among my people. He denies it. But this morning, the gods themselves will judge. The crowd gasped. Whispers spread like wildfire. Everyone knew what that meant. The king had prepared the net of truth, an ancient trial used only in the gravest of matters. It was said that no liar could pass through it unscathed. Tortoise's heart skipped a beat, though he quickly masked his fear with a grin. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "I have nothing to fear. For the truth is with me, and I will gladly submit to any test." The king signaled, and 2 guards brought forth a large woven net made of sacred vines, coated with chalk markings and tied with charms. The net shimmered under the sun as if it were alive. "Whoever walks through this net while speaking lies," the king announced, "will be caught and bound by it. But whoever speaks truth will pass freely." The crowd erupted with excitement. Some shouted, "Let him try! Let him try!" Others prayed silently, curious to see if Tortoise's cunning would fail him at last. Tortoise swallowed hard. He had never faced such a thing. Tricks and words were his weapons, but here, against the net of truth, could he prevail? Still, he puffed out his chest and smiled. "I will walk through it. And when I do, may my enemies be silenced forever." The guards spread the net open, holding it between 2 wooden poles. The king motioned for Tortoise to step forward. As Tortoise approached, his mind raced. What if this net really works? What if my lies catch me? No, no. Calm down. Just say things that cannot be doubted. He cleared his throat and declared loudly, "I am standing here in front of the king." Then he stepped forward. The net did not move. The crowd murmured. He smiled. "I am Tortoise, son of the forest." He took another step, still unharmed. The people clapped, impressed. Encouraged, he grew bolder. "I have always been loyal to my king," he declared, stepping again. But this time, the net trembled. The crowd gasped. The vines twitched like snakes, reaching toward him. Tortoise panicked and quickly added, I have always loved my people." The net shook again, one vine brushing against his shell. He froze in terror. The crowd shouted, "He is lying! He is lying!" Some laughed, others booed. The king raised his hand for silence. "Tortoise, the net knows the truth. Be careful what you say." Tortoise's legs trembled. He wanted to run, but the eyes of the whole kingdom pinned him down. He could not show weakness. He forced a smile and said, I am very hungry right now." He stepped again. The net calmed. The crowd laughed. "Ha!" he thought. "So long as I speak things nobody can deny, I am safe." But the king leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Tortoise," he said slowly, "tell us who stole the yams from the royal barn." The crowd went silent. The drummers stopped. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. This was the moment. Tortoise's mouth went dry. He glanced at the net, then at the king, then at the villagers. He tried to think fast. "If I lie, the net will bind me. If I tell the truth, I will be finished." The vines stirred as if they already knew his thoughts. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Sweat poured down his face. His once proud robe clung to his trembling body. The king repeated, his voice thunderous, "Tell us the truth, Tortoise. Who took the yams?" The crowd leaned forward, eager for the answer. Children clutched their mothers. Elders stroked their beards. Even the guards looked restless. Tortoise stammered, I know who it was, but..." The vines shot out, wrapping around his leg. He screamed. The crowd erupted. "It's him. He lied. The net has caught him." They shouted. The net coiled tighter, binding him at the waist, pulling him down. He struggled, but the more he fought, the more it held him. His lies had finally betrayed him. The king stood tall, his voice carrying across the courtyard. The truth is stronger than lies. Today, the kingdom sees the true face of Tortoise. His greed and deceit have brought shame upon him. The crowd roared in agreement. Some jeered, others spat at the ground in disgust. Mothers pulled their children closer, whispering lessons about honesty. Tortoise wailed, "Please, your majesty. Spare me. I only wanted to survive. I never meant harm." But the king's face remained stern. The judgment was not yet complete. The king raised his staff and said, "Tomorrow, at the great square, the final punishment will be decided. Let the whole kingdom witness it." The guards dragged Tortoise away, still bound in the net, his cries echoing through the palace walls. The crowd buzzed with excitement. What punishment would the king give? Would Tortoise ever escape his fate? No one knew. But one thing was clear, his days of deceiving the kingdom were numbered. The great hall of the king's palace had never been this crowded. From far and near, people gathered to witness the end of Tortoise's story. Drums echoed in the distance, and the guards' spears gleamed under the morning sun. The air was thick with tension, curiosity, and a hint of fear of what the king's judgment would be. Tortoise stood in the middle of the hall, surrounded by guards. His once proud shell seemed smaller, his eyes darted around nervously, and his mouth, which was always quick to lie, now quivered in silence. The people whispered among themselves. Some pitied him, remembering his cleverness that once entertained them. Others shook their heads, reminding each other of his greed and deceit that had brought them nothing but trouble. The king rose from his throne, his robe flowing like a river of authority. His face was stern, his eyes burning with the weight of justice. "Tortoise," the king's voice boomed, "you have been found guilty of deceiving not just your fellow animals, but also your king. You lied about treasures, you caused hunger among your people, and you let greed control your actions." The hall went silent. Even the flies that hovered seemed to freeze in the air. Tortoise swallowed hard and fell to his knees. "Great king, please have mercy. I only wanted to be recognized. I wanted the world to see me as important. I never meant to harm anyone." The king's eyes narrowed. "You did not mean to harm, yet harm followed every one of your lies. Do you think your greed can be excused because of your excuses? No, Tortoise. Today, everyone must learn that lies may shine for a moment, but truth will last forever." The people clapped, shouting, "Truth! Truth!" Their voices echoed through the hall like thunder. The king lifted his staff. "Your punishment will be this: from today onward, your shell will remain cracked as a reminder of your broken promises. Wherever you go, people will see your scars and remember what greed and lies can do. And you, Tortoise, will never sit in any council of wisdom again. You shall live on the edges, watching others prosper in truth while you struggle with your deceit." A gasp swept through the hall. Tortoise's cracked shell shone under the light. He looked at it and wept bitterly, for he knew there was no escaping this fate. Then, the king turned to the people. "Let this be a lesson to everyone. Do not let greed blind you. Do not let lies control you. A kingdom built on lies will surely fall, but one built on truth will stand forever." The people cheered, their voices filling the air with relief and unity. Even the youngest animals understood the message. As Tortoise was led out of the palace, he looked back one last time at the throne he once dreamed of sitting on. His eyes were heavy with regret, but it was too late. His chance was gone. And so, the tale of the tortoise who lied to the king became a story passed down from one generation to the next. Parents told their children, elders reminded the youth, and everyone knew the warning: greed and lies may bring you temporary gain, but in the end, they will leave you broken and empty. The king's words lived on, stronger than Tortoise's lies ever did. Moral of the story: greed and lies may look like shortcuts to greatness, but they only lead to destruction. Honesty, humility, and patience are the true paths to lasting respect and prosperity.